Okay, hello YouTube. So today I actually just wanted to jump right into a topic that is kind of sensitive. Hopefully you guys will be understanding of it, but it's also something I'm kind of passionate about and is also relevant because of a very recent game that came out. Japan has a problem. It has a serious media problem. It has a serious problem with the way it depicts teenagers and minors. It's something that perverts a lot of the things that I enjoy that come from Japanese culture, and I just want to have an open and honest discussion about it. Now, what's prompting my point of talking about this with you guys? Well, today I wanted to bring it up because of a recent game that came out. You guys may or may not know. It is Fire Emblem Engage. Fire Emblem Engage literally just came out last week. As of me recording this, it is a Fire Emblem game. Honestly, it's kind of the hype is kind of dead on this one. I don't know why, because a lot of people love Three Houses, myself included. I loved Awakening. I was hit and miss with Fates. Some things I liked, some things I didn't. But this game just kind of seemed dead on arrival. And I think part of it is like, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of new ideas being thrown to the table here. It just kind of seems like they're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at us. At this point, the series needs to kind of evolve in order to gain a bigger audience. But I digress, it's a different topic for a different day. I think the game's fine so far. I don't have any issues with it. But the one thing I do have an issue with is the way that certain character interactions and certain characters are depicted in Japanese. Now, there has been screenshots floating around, discourse on the internet about one of the characters, and I believe it's the Pact Ring is what it's called. I might be wrong on that. Maybe I might be incorrect. The game just came out. I haven't really gotten too far in it, so maybe I'm wrong. But my point in all of this is that you can pick characters that you want to form a pact with. You could build relationships with characters in a romantic way. Now, some characters might not, seem like it's okay to do that with, but Fire Emblem has had a history of like putting really weird subtext into these relationship type things. And this game is definitely taking it a step too far, at least in the Japanese sense. I will give Nintendo props. They have localized this to perfection. Like, they changed so many things that make everything that made me uncomfortable about a lot of these character interactions, and they kind of take them out. There's one screenshot that's been floating around about the main character getting into a relationship and fulfilling the pact with the character Anna. Anna has been a long-standing character in Fire Emblem games for a very long time. She's like the traveling merchant, the redhead character inside of the series, and she's kind of almost a fan favorite for a lot of people. I think she's actually a pretty good character in Awakening in terms of like actual combat and gameplay, and she's definitely one you can mold into any role, which is very appreciative. But regardless of the point, this screenshot, someone translated it, and so the English version is actually very good. It talks about how it ties into her character, how she wants to be famous, so she wants to be a world-renowned merchant. So one of the ending screenshots in it, I'll pull it up now, says, "Nope, this partnership is our ticket to fame, fortune, and finding my family." And that's just a wholesome little moment between two characters. But in the Japanese version, it gets fucking creepy really fast. So like, English localization of this character Anna has her as anywhere between the ages of like 21 to 26, I think. That's the typical age range. And in Japan, she is much younger, like child to teenage years type shit. So the line that starts this off in the Japanese version is, "I'm still a child, so I may not be ready for these sorts of things." Oh my god. Even if it's too soon for us to be lovers, we can still be partners, don't you think? With you, I might just be the world's best traveling merchant. If we meet my family someday, let me introduce you as my significant other, okay? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna stop making those noises. So, Japan, what the fuck? What the actual fuck? Like, I don't think I need to explain why this is bad, but this is bad on so many levels. One, it borders pedophilia. Two, it's extreme grooming and social manipulation for someone who is completely underdeveloped as an individual. Whenever you have a wide age or social range between people in a relationship, whether it's with capital and money, fame, age, experience, or just, you know, you see this in workplaces, workplace dynamics. You have someone who holds a higher position than another person and kind of holds that over their head, right? When people who have power tend to force themselves onto younger people, you know, that can cause a lot of disruption in relationships, and people can, well, in all honesty, fall into doing things they'd rather not want to do out of pressure, whether it be socially, financially, and they're manipulated by people. This is considered grooming, in a sense, right? Grooming, manipulation, and sexual misconduct. That's what that's considered. Now, I'm not trying to be fucking woke scholar bullshit. You can call it whatever the fuck you want, but these values inside of this one line of, or these 3 lines of dialogue, I should say, are not uncommon in Japanese culture. They're pretty commonplace. We've seen this, in fact, actually, very similar things, very taboo nature things, that really are just completely off the table for a lot of Western discussion, in various other video games published and released by Nintendo. You know, the family-friendly company Nintendo. Keep that in mind. Like, Fire Emblem Fates had the fucking petting minigame thing, which, regardless of, you know, like, if you wanted that taken out of the English version or not, was kind of creepy. It has a lot of pseudo-incestuous subplot points with characters in Fates when it comes to, you know, the whole, you know, you're romancing your brother or sister thing. You know, that's kind of, step is the excuse, but regardless, it's still kind of creepy. And beyond this, it's something that is very prevalent in a lot of Japanese media and anime, and in just a lot of scenarios like this in general, right? I can name you any anime that has characters that are canonically under 18 who are often put into these sexual situations that are kind of awkward and not too flattering for the writers. And you have to keep in mind the context of how these things are written, right? It's not like these are written by teenagers and teenage groups, right? The focus groups coming up with these ideas in Japan, storyboarded and developed by groups of like middle-aged Japanese men who have these fantasies over these young women who are old enough to be daughters or granddaughters to them. It's something that, I mean, I don't have any sway over Japanese culture. I don't have any sort of influence over what Japan does or how they do things, but it's also something that we don't talk about enough in Western culture when we decide to indulge in these forms of media, right? There are a lot of, and I mean a lot of things coming out of Japan that have been localized that really just shouldn't have never been localized to the US, that are things that really do have impacts on how our society can function with certain groups of people. And I'm not saying this because I don't want to cancel Fire Emblem or want to cancel any of these pieces of media or anything. I'm doing this in the same sense that I talk about video games. I do it to have us better understand the things that we enjoy, to better it for ourselves and for others, to avoid things that will otherwise alienate groups of people and just people in general from enjoying the things that we enjoy. And obviously these things bug me, and I don't think it's uncommon to say that these are going to bug a lot of other people too. examples I should give, right? I mean, a lot of these forms of media that we tend to enjoy, whether it be just anime, all tend to have these subtexts in them, these pervy anime tropes that are very harmful to young developing individuals' perceptions of the world, of social situations, and don't do any justice to the actual main meat and context of the stories. The worst parts of the original Dragon Ball series, the original, I'm not talking about Dragon Ball Z, were all the parts that they perved on Bulma, who was a teenage girl at the time, right? Like, the worst parts of a lot of these shows that are beloved by so many people, these games that we all come to know and love and enjoy, tend to be the moments that are just filled with borderline pedophilic and really taboo and gross behavior. Persona 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. Another discussion, because it recently just released on Game Pass and PlayStation, was Persona 3 Portable. And everyone brought up how you can have a romance with a 10-year-old boy. You can have a romance with Ken, a literal romance with that character. And it's just not okay. These are things that we should not have to be subjected to in games or shows without any context behind it that adds to a narrative or a story, right? I'm not saying that sexualization in any form or these ideas cannot be portrayed in these forms of media. That's ridiculous to say, because I think if it's being used to tell a story, if it's being used to convey themes or develop characters, then I think it's perfectly fine. A good example I threw out about this a few years back when I made my Xenoblade 2 re-review was the Persona 5 thing with On and with Kamoshida, right? You have Kamoshida, who's a complete pervert. He's an asshole. He blackmails his underage students into having sex with him, and his palace has this fantasy of a literal 16-year-old girl like ogling him and treating him like he's a god. And that's meant to be a storytelling thing, right? We're not getting a peep show. It's not making some really cringy sexualized joke. It's not normalizing bad behavior. It's something that is commentating on this individual character and is also condemning said individual character for his actions. And so with that said, I think I should say context matters, right? Context of how these themes are portrayed, about how this imagery is placed in our media, and we should question it. We should question it. We should try to get answers, right? We should try to understand why these things happen, because I think it leads to a larger systemic problem that we're not understanding, and that I hope can eventually maybe be rectified in these forms of media that we see in the future, right? Because, I guess that's sort of the fucking woke mentality, whatever, the fuck ever, I don't care. My point isn't to cancel anything. My point is to understand it so we can be better, because if we're better, then we won't make mistakes. And I think that's something we need to just understand overall, right? And it's also something that I'm going to be fully real with you guys, it's not okay. Some of this is not okay, and some of you on the internet are normalizing this shit. I'm not gonna say any names in particular. These Fire Emblem fans literally like self-reporting on the timeline, saying like, oh well, this is tainting the localization team is doing this game dirty and tainting the message. Like, you want to date like a 14-year-old? That's what you want to do? That's tainting the message for you? Is dating 14-year-olds? Really? You're gonna have a problem with them changing the fact that you're not dating a 14-year-old in this game? You can still do it's literally the same scene. They just changed the text so it's not fucking creepy. Like, and that shit bugs me, that there are people out here, not in Japan, here in America, the UK, Spain, Canada, Australia, right? That somehow think that this is okay to do. Because at least I know here, where I am, that's not okay. I hope you just keep in mind what I have to say here. And I mean, I'm only one person with one opinion, so I can't really change the world. But I hope that I at least reach someone, and that we can learn from these sorts of things and do better, because these are the types of things that keep me from enjoying the things that I enjoy.